How can you expect a young boy to heal from trauma by re-traumatizing him? I'm concerned for boys now. They're overly anxious, apathetic, an extreme fear of failure. Men allow ourselves to be defined by one adjective, masculinity or masculine, because it's just a set of attributes traditionally ascribed to men: strength, boldness, and aggression. So if that is our identity, that becomes our worth.
Could you just share a little bit about your background and the work that you are doing around the world with young men, with boys?
Sure. The journey started, unfortunately, in my family with trauma. My grandfather was lynched in 1936. And as a result of that, his children, my aunties and uncles, could never release it. It was so much pain. And that was when I saw the effects of intergenerational trauma. From there, my mother's first marriage, I wasn't born yet, but it was very abusive. And she was beaten. Her husband, the father of my brothers, would slap them with the flat sides of butcher knives, shoot guns in the house, and again punch her like a sack of meat. And in 1973, Mel, my brother Larry, our brother, was murdered. And my mother basically lost the will to live. She would tell me if I wasn't born, she would have taken her life. And not for the community of people who surrounded her. I don't know if she would have made it out of that. And I wanted to share just that brief story because during that time, my brother and I needed a father, a man to help us navigate through that pain. But unfortunately, as men, especially, from the 1900s on, you're just taught and conditioned to provide and protect. But if you felt weakness, you were considered pusillanimous or weak, lacking courage. And as a result of that, I believe many of us take our lives. We commit suicide 3.5 times as likely as women because there's no room to be human. And so when I started the Cave of Adullam, the martial arts mentoring program, that's what it was when I first started.
So you decided that you wanted to start a martial arts mentoring program.
Yes, to give the boys what I longed to receive from my father. He was in the same city, but wasn't really present in my life. So I always longed to have that man that I could have an allegiance to who would challenge me, but not condemn me. Train me up in the way of manhood, in the way I would become comprehensive and not overly, I guess, callous or trying to be hyper masculine or too sensitive. I wanted the right balance, and I was looking for, I guess, comprehensive manhood, and didn't find it.
Now, why martial arts?
So the sensei.
But before we get into that, I found a way that y'all could make some side hustle money on your phones. But the only thing is that you have to play games on your phones. And I know that a lot of people do not like playing games on their phone and stuff like that. But this is an easy way to make some bread. Even if you can only make an extra $100 or $200 a month, that could pay a couple bills just by playing games on your phone. And if you click my link in the description below or in the comments below, you could start out with a free $5. These companies are literally paying people just for y'all to play games on your phone. That is crazy. But just try it out. Go peep the games that they have. If you don't like it, hey, it is what it is. But I say it's worth a try.
You were a black belt in the gym or the dojo, but a white belt in life. And I started to connect the dots when I was fighting Mel. And I'm just trying to learn to fight. My instructor stops after he was sparring with me. He says, you're tunnel vision. I said, what do you mean? He says, you're like a shark. When it smells blood in the water, you're locked in on the prey, but you don't see the guy with the harpoon above. Why am I getting psychology training in martial arts? But that's what it was about. It really wasn't about self-defense. It was about self-control. And I tell all of my students, you cannot defend what hasn't been disciplined. And so when I started the martial arts mentoring program, it was discipline-based. I did scared straight programs. And I realized that our boys didn't need to be scared straight. They needed to be healed. How can you expect a young boy to heal from trauma by re-traumatizing him? They didn't need more discipline. They needed more love. And I shifted the model to more of like a safe space, still pushing them, still giving them the fire they need, but yet giving them the opportunity to share what's heavy on their hearts. And it transformed every student that I come across because they just want an opportunity to be heard. And we have one study in-house that over 78% of our students improve their grade point average by one letter grade. And check this out, Mel, without tutoring. Simply allowing them to express the heaviness, let them see their cause and effect, to reset and refocus. It works even with ADHD symptoms. I have videos of kids couldn't even sit still for 2 minutes after teaching them how to breathe and then getting them to talk about what's troubling them. And that's all boys want, is an opportunity to be more than strong, more than courageous. And you can't be courageous without fear anyway. You have to learn how to feel. If you have no fear, what do you have to be courageous about? There's nothing to lose. And that's all our boys want. And truthfully, that's what our men want as well.
Well, your work is now spread around the world. You've had award-winning documentary films made about the work that you're doing. After working with men and boys and helping them build emotional resilience and intelligence and helping people heal from trauma, what keeps you up at night right now, Jason, when you think about the challenges that boys and men are facing?
While I no longer stay up like I used to, it was hard for me to let go of the disappointments of the day. When I reached the evening, I realized that's what tomorrow is for.
Ooh,
And
say that again? Wait a minute. You're like spitting poetry. Every time you're talking, I'm like, say that again, but then I don't want to interrupt you. Say that again?
I stopped allowing the disappointments of the day to continue into my rest. I realized that's what tomorrow is for. I can't do anymore. And so once I was able to
That's so
allow
good.
myself to reset, I have what's a concept called the 4 Rs, where I reflect, release, reset so that I can rest. Reflect on the heaviness of my day, things that I need to let go of, things that I may need to retain. What if I was impatient with my daughter or sharp to my wife? I don't want to release that because I need to revisit that and reconcile with them. Then I release anything, any thought that could become toxic, every emotion that could prevent me from resting. Once I've allowed that, and also I'm a spiritual man, I pray to God. I said, I pray you're pleased with my work today, but now I need to rest. Once I follow those three, reflect, release, and reset, now I can rest. And so when I get to the rest piece, I let it all go, Mel. But to your question of the concern,
That is so good. Y'all don't understand like how much that right there can change like just the stress that you feel in your head. Let me tell y'all something. A lot of us, we go day in and day out of receiving stress, receiving no's, getting letdowns, fighting past it. And our fighting past it is usually just, I'm just going to act like it never happened. But then by the end of the day, we feel so flat. Then by the next day, it's like we're constantly compounding weight on our backs. And as men, we have to suppress these things. At least that's what we believe, because men don't cry, right? Men be strong, toughen up, stay strong out here. Because of sayings like that, we haven't been taught to be vulnerable, to let these things go and then continue on to the next day. Instead, we just compound things. And then how does it come out? It always comes out in anger. But having that moment right there in your daily regimen of just, for me, I do that, and I didn't even know that he had this in his book. I actually just got his book, but I've been doing that same practice. And when I say it helps with my mental, it's different for everybody. But for me, it's just a walk. It's a walk, and I'm breaking down everything that stressed me out yesterday. Okay, do I need to hold on to these things? What's another perspective to look at these things? How can I move forward without these things bothering me? Which one of these things can I just let go? Am I forcing myself to be bothered by this because of maybe this is something I would have been mad about in the past, so I'm forcing myself to be mad about it now? And then I release those things, the things that don't matter. And by the end of my walk, my goal is to walk back in the house clear-minded, because I don't want yesterday's troubles weighing me down for today.
is that I'm concerned for boys now. They're overly anxious, apathetic, an extreme fear of failure. And they're longing to be loved, not only by their mothers in a certain way, but their fathers. And I have to help them navigate through all of these emotions in the moment. That's why I love martial arts, because In sports, I love sports as well, especially with comprehensive coaching. But when a fist is coming at your face, when a guy takes your back in jujitsu and he's choking you, when you're getting thrown and you're blindfolded, so you have to be relaxed and accept the fall, you can't fake it. And so now these emotions surface. And so when I see boys crying and angry, I stop the entire class and say, why are you angry? I know you're angry. This is a surface emotion, which is why I created the earthquake of emotions exercise in this book. The anger is what is at the surface, the epicenter, what's damaging everything we love that everyone can see. I teach them how to express the emotions at the hypocenter. If you can stop them there, you will save what's on the surface. And so a young boy may be angry at me, ready to fight me. And I say, dig deeper, Christian. It's not me, it's something that happened to you. And now he cries and releases the fact that his father died when he was young. And then when his grandfather tried to help him, he passes. I had another young boy never express the heaviness of his grandfather dying. Once we gave him the freedom to feel, this boy is one of the best students we have. And so when a boy can be human, when I don't tell him to be fearless because no one can be fearless. Grown men or married men with children understand that when your child is born, it's like your heart walking outside of your body.
That's amazing.
So you know,
That's so true.
Okay, there is a such thing as fear. The key is that we don't succumb to it. This is the problem when you allow, when men allow ourselves to be defined by one adjective, masculinity or masculine.
Before he gets into that, man, that was so potent. That was so powerful what he said about it's like your heart walking out of your chest into this world when it comes to having your kids. Like that is so real, because just to know that my precious children are somewhere at a school and I'm not there, just to see the crazy things that go on TV, so much emotion that go behind having kids. And if you don't have your own child, you will one day see this feeling as well. The fear of your children being in this world is terrifying. And to know that you can't always protect them, that is fear, okay?
Because it's just a set of attributes traditionally ascribed to men. Men allow ourselves to be defined by one adjective, masculinity or masculine, because it's just a set of attributes traditionally ascribed to men, strength, boldness, and aggression. So if that is our identity, that becomes our worth, and then our value becomes in our work, what we do. Then you wonder why so many men, especially athletes, when they retire, they have no purpose. They feel like they're worth nothing. Men who are in their late 60s that I've talked to, I can't provide, I can hardly walk, because your worth has been in what you do. Male, I walk around, I take pictures whenever I see an elderly couple out. The wife is peppy, she's moving around, but the husband is on a cane or a walker, barely can move, because his entire life he worked himself. He had to prove himself. And so many men can't even take naps, Mel, when their wives are at home. I used to jump up from the nap when Nicole would come through the door.
Well, because you're going to get in trouble if you're sleeping.
But
Same way with Chris.
But that's a problem.
Yes.
Because as a hardworking man, naps, well, you know this, naps are essential.
Yes.
We're starting to see how it affects our mental health.
Yes.
And
Jason, there is so much I want to unpack with you.
I wish my wife would walk in here talking about, what you doing, sleeping? Nah, She gets her naps and I get my naps, all right?
About everything that you just shared.
Mm-hmm.
And as you keep coming back to some of these statements, freedom to feel. Mm. And there is something so much deeper going on that is causing men to feel that their worth is defined by their work.
Mm-hmm.
And this inability to both feel what they need to feel deep down, not the anger on the surface that we all see and the frustration, but what's underneath all of that, and the ability to rest. And, you know, it reminds me of this point. If you turn to page 4 in your incredible book, you write about
really
this.
Good so far.
There's a passage that you have in here that I actually triple underlined, and I'm wondering if you could read the part where you talk about rest.
Absolutely. When men say we're tired, it typically doesn't mean we need sleep. It means we want rest. There's a major difference between the two. Sleep is an unconscious state that provides physical and mental relaxation. Rest, however, is a conscious state of freedom from anything that wearies the soul.
What is it that
That's
is
so good.
making men and boys' souls so weary?
We're living performance based lives. From everything we do, how we look, how much money we make, how successful you are. Even the misleading mantras, for instance, no pain, no gain. That's not a universal principle, meaning it can't be applied to everything in life. So, as a sports analogy, if we had, you and I owned a football team and our top quarterback was injured towards Achilles, we wouldn't send them right back in the game and say, hey, no pain, no gain. Men live their lives off of that misleading mantra. And then you wonder why, truthfully, the more pain we're feeling, there is no gain. We're really living lives that are detrimental not only to us, but to our families. We're so geared on being so strong all the time that we don't even go see the doctor.
Oh my God, that's so true. I was just on Chris's case, because he's like not able to sleep and he never goes to the doctor. He won't allow himself to get sick.
Why go? You're only valued for what you do. I'm not loved. I'm only loved for what I can provide. Why do you think most men, if you ask them, what do you want for Father's Day or your birthday? They say, I'm good, nothing. Because they're receiving something for just being. And that's the biggest plight I see with so many men. And it gets me emotional because they wear the facade like everything's good.
Yeah.
A lot of times families miss the forest for the trees. They miss the struggle because of the smile. When a man always says, I'm good, nothing's wrong, that's a warning. As men, if someone dies, we hug each other and say, stay strong. So subconsciously, we're programming each other that when we feel weak, we're not men. And say that weakness, that time is meant for us to rest and recover. Rest is not weakness or something that makes you milksop as a man. It's a restoration of strength. But if we don't feel loved, only appreciated for what we do, and then what's even deeper, if we don't love ourselves, to many of us, we feel that we're only going to find rest when we're resting in peace.
You mean like when you're dead?
Yes. So why go to the doctor? All I do is work. Why would I want to prolong my life here? A workhorse. I don't want to be a workhorse. I want to be a racehorse that can finish this journey, and along that journey, I'm taking care of myself. But most men are just workhorses, and when it's time for them to be done, they're off in the pasture alone, suffering in their silence, not feeling valuable because their whole time existing, they were doing.
Jason, for somebody that's listening, they're like,
That is so real.
I think that is true about a lot of men,
so real.
but not my son, not the guy I'm married to. He seems fine. He's okay. He's watching the ball game on the weekend. He's golfing. He hasn't lost his job. We're good. What do you want the person listening to know, particularly women, about the truth?
Ask him, how are you really doing? Intently look into his eyes and hold his hands. How can I support you? I received a call from a close friend just 2 days ago.
Ladies, if you do that to a man, he will fall so deeply for you. You don't understand how rare that question, and with that level of like, I really want to know. You don't understand how rare that is in a man's life. I'm choked up just thinking about it. For somebody to intentionally want to find out what's going on with a man without throwing it back in his face, you know how rare that is for a man to be able to really be vulnerable or have that place that he can really be vulnerable and it doesn't come back to bite him in the behind. You don't understand how rare that is. And that was one of the things that my wife did early on when I first met her. She would ask, how are you feeling? and then really go deep into the surface level answer I would try to give her, to the point where I'm really giving her my emotions. I felt like I was naked in the woods telling her how I felt. But the fact that she was so willing to hear and understand, give me what I was giving her. Women, I'm telling you, that is a secret code that once you unlock, protect that key. When I say protect that key, don't use that key against that man. Because if you don't protect that key and you use that against him, it'll make that wall even harder for the next person or for yourself.
And it still affects me right now. He had told me for the first time in his life, he looked at his gun and considered taking his life. And I said, why hadn't you called me? He says, man, I know you got a lot going on as well. And so as men, we're so used to wearing the facade. When you see him, he's the most joyous man you'll ever meet. You would never think anything is wrong. But inside, there's so much trauma. And because we're taught that don't cry, stay strong, your family needs you, we're like, well, I need somebody. And then we believe that we're alone. That's the biggest lie we could ever believe, because when you get men together, and your husband Chris knows this very well, you put men in a room alone, they open up and start sharing the heaviness that they've been carrying. For instance, it doesn't have to even be trauma, but what about the father who has children who are autistic or have disabilities, and he goes to work crying every day and no one knows the heaviness in his heart? A friend of mine was telling me his son was just trying to brush his teeth, and the struggle of him just trying to do something that's so normal for many of us broke him down.
And then you feel like a burden if you share it with somebody.
And
then you got to hold it together, because you can't be,
because
like,
people don't, when you say how you're doing, it's not like you're really intentional. It becomes just, hey, hi. No, when I ask you how you're doing, I'm here for you. I've had people at restaurants, I say, how are you doing? Oh, you wouldn't want to know. Oh, yes, I do. Tell me. And I give them the space, you know.
One of the takeaways that I have from listening to you so far is a very meaningful change that I could make is whether I'm talking to my son Oakley on the phone, right, who's off at college, or I'm talking to Chris at the end of the day, instead of being like, how was your day? Really intentionally recognizing that's a moment to create space to say, how are you? No, really.
Absolutely. Holding,
so
like
good.
Nicole and I exercise, our therapist taught us, is just to sit in front of each other, knees touching, holding each other's hand, and staring into our eyes. No communication. I actually do that exercise with fathers and sons when they're going through, I guess, having some conflict. The father always is the first to start crying, because words really don't express what we're feeling. The eyes, when you're looking into each other's eyes, you look into your son's eyes, and you know as a father where you've made mistakes, and you know really his behavior is tied to a lot that we're doing. To give the father the opportunity to show his love in a way without saying it, and the son sees like, whoa, my dad is like super tough, but he must really love me. I must be really special for him to cry right now.
This episode of Mel Robbins' podcast was so good that I had to share with y'all. If y'all want me to do part 2 to this, react to the rest of the episode, comment below. Please do part 2, and we can vibe out and we can react to it. My knee is hurting really bad right now, and I feel like my leg is falling asleep, so I gotta go see what's going on with my leg. But y'all know, I told y'all I'm going to give y'all some more double uploads, so I hope y'all enjoyed this. Like I say in all my videos, if y'all want to make some extra cash just playing some games on your phone, these companies are paying people to play games. All you got to do is click the link in the description below or the link in the comments below, and you could literally make money playing games on your phone. Just sign up, and it'll show you a whole bunch of games and how much money you can make playing that game. If it's not for you, not for you. But anyways, y'all, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, turn on my post notifications, and don't forget to hit that hype button too. All right. Until next time, y'all, it's been your boy Ty Boogie. I'm out of here, man. Peace.